Hi, 6th graders. We're on lesson 2-4. Our learning target is adding integers. So when we're adding integers, sometimes we'll have the same signs and sometimes we'll have different signs. So when I mean same signs, if we look at -3 plus -2, they're both negative, so they have the same signs. So if we want to, so before when we talked about integers, we know that -3 lies to the left of 0 because everything to the left of 0 is negative. So -3 is right here, which we know. Okay? If we want to add -3 plus -2, okay, first of all, if we're adding a negative, we're going into the left direction. So we're going this way. If we're going this way, we're going positive. So we start at -3, because that's where we're starting at, and now we move 2 units to the left. We're going to the left because it's -2. So -3 plus -2, we do 2 jumps, and we get -5. So we have negative, and then we go further negative, so it makes sense that it's -5. -2 plus -5. So we start at -2, and now this time we're going 5 jumps to the left again because it's negative. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we end up at -7. And then -1 plus -3, we start at -1, and then we're going more negative, so 1, 2, 3, and we end up at -4. So you can always use a number line to help you figure out which way you're going and what number you start at and which number you end at. Okay? Or you can also use this rule that applies to adding integers with the same sign. So what you do is add their absolute value and then take the sign of both numbers. So -3 plus -2, we just figured out is -5 using our number line, okay? So if I take the absolute value, so the absolute value of -3, we know is 3. I'm just going to write this out just to refresh our memory. And the absolute value of -2 is 2. So we have 3 plus 2, we get 5. And then take the sign of both numbers. So we go back up and we see they're both negative, so we make it a -5. So basically what we're doing is we're dropping the signs, adding the numbers together, and then bringing the sign back into our sum, so -5. Okay, so drop the signs. We have 4 plus 8, which is 12. They're both negative, so we make it -12. Drop the signs, 20 and 25 is 45. They're both negative, so we make it -45. Okay, we're starting at -20. We're going more negative. We're adding more negatives, so our answer has to be negative. If we look back up here, we can see 5 plus 2 is 7, and then add our negative sign. 3 plus 1 is 4, add the negative. Okay, so this is just for same signs. So if they're both positive, both negative. Okay, obviously we know if it was 4 plus 8, okay, which we've worked with adding positives forever and ever, we know that it's 12 because again the absolute value of 4 and the absolute value of 8 would make it 4 and 8, and they're both positive, so then it's +12. Okay, well, what about if we have, where's my next slide? Different signs. Here we go. If we have different signs, so now we can see that we have 2 plus -5. So we have a positive and we have a negative. Okay, so again, starting at 0, this way is negative. This way to the right is positive. So start at 2, okay, because we have 2 and then we're adding -5. So we're going to start over here at +2 And then -5 means that we're going to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we end up at -3. Okay? 3 plus -2, we're going to start at 3, 1, 2. We're going only 2 negative, so we end up at 1. So even though we're moving negative, we didn't move enough negative jumps to get to negative. We're still in the positives. And then 1 plus -7, we're going to start at 1, and now we're going to go 7 jumps to the left because it's negative. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we end up at -6. Okay, so again, you can always use the number line to help you figure out where you're starting, and then if you're going to the right or the left and where you end up. You can also use this rule for adding integers with different signs. So this time we subtract the absolute values of both integers and then take the sign of the integer with the greater absolute value. So if we look at -9 plus 4, we take the absolute value of both. So the absolute value of -9 minus the absolute value of 4 would be 9 minus 4, we get 5. We know that the absolute value of -9 is greater than the absolute value of 4. So we take the sign of whatever that greater number was, we take that sign, which is negative, and we make our answer into -5. Okay? So I know that's confusing, but basically, again, we're dropping both signs, taking the larger number and subtracting. 9 minus 4, we get 5, and then we look back up and we see what number is larger and take that sign. Okay, so if we have -8 plus 3, we have negative and positive, so we have different signs. Okay, I'm going to drop my signs, so 8 minus 3, we get 5. And then I ask myself, well, 8 is larger than 3, 8 is negative, so I'm going to make it a -5. Okay, -13 plus 18. So we have a negative and a positive, so I'm going to drop my signs. I'm going to take my larger number, 18 minus 13, which is 5. Now I look and I see 18 is larger and 18 is positive, so I'm going to keep it +5. And then 7 plus -1, we're going to take 7 minus 1, so we get 6. And then 7 is larger, 7 is positive, so we keep it +6. And then 5 and -9, so -9, so we're going to take 9 minus 5, because I dropped my signs, I get 4. 9 is greater, 9 is negative, so I make it -4. And if we go back to our number line that we used, I know that 3 minus 2 is 1, 3 is greater, and it's positive, so I keep it +1. 1 plus -7, 7 minus 1 is 6. 7 is greater and it's negative, so we have -6. Okay, so you probably want to make sure that you have a lot of this written down. So if you want to go back and write some of this down from the number line of the same signs, you can pause me right now and do that. Here is the rules about adding integers with the same sign. I would make sure that you have this written down and maybe 1 or 2 of the examples. And then this is the number line with the different signs. So if you want to write a couple of these examples down, if that will help you, or if you would prefer to write down the rules that we learned about adding integers with different signs, I would write these 2 down for sure, and a couple of the examples. And then the last thing that we're going to talk about is additive inverses or opposites. So Opposites are two integers that are the same distance from 0, or basically opposites. You can see -5 and 5 are opposites. They have opposite signs. -11 and 11, -1 and 1. So if we picture a number line, we know that 1 and -1 are both one step away from 0. So the additive inverse property, which you want to write in your notes, says that the sum of any number and its additive inverse is 0. So 5 plus -5 equals 0. If we have +5 and then we have -5, each positive and negative cancels each other out, so then we have 0. And we have different signs, so if we use our different signs rule, I would take 5 minus 5, and I get 0. -5 and 5, well, they're the same. So we wouldn't know what sign to use, but 0 is neither positive or negative, so then we just leave it as 0. Alrighty, don't forget to log into NICU and take the 2-4 quiz. You can also go back and rewatch, because I know some of that is a little bit confusing. So go back and take other notes. Remember to bring your math notebook to class, and have a super evening.